so we're gonna take and we're gonna pull out the old trigger out of this Quinton Defense lower. It's the same, it's just a mil-spec AR-15. And so we're gonna take this trigger out and we are gonna replace it with the Elfman SE Pro. So this is a threaded bushing, and everything that you need when you get it in your package, when you buy any of the Pro triggers, comes with the 4 screws you need from the outside, lock washers, and you could use washers if you want. I don't like to, I use it without them, but some people just don't want to mark their gun up. This is the plate for the bottom, the shoe for the trigger, and this is a tool to uninstall it if something happened that you wanted to take it out and the screws were spinning. It also comes with every Allen wrench that you need to install it. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is I obviously took the top off. I made sure that the gun was empty. There was no rounds in it. We cleared the top, and we now just have a lower in our hands. So we're going to start by taking off the grip. So it's going to run the Allen wrench down here. Now, sometimes this is a screw, you know, just a flat screw, which I prefer the Allen wrench. Now, when you take this off, you're going to have a spring that comes out and a detent that is for the safety. So we pull this off like this, and you can see you want to make sure that your spring, you keep it. And then the detent, generally you just kind of hit it a little bit, doesn't always come out. Move it so you can get your safety out. Safety came out, and the little detent is still in there. So it will fall out if you don't get it out, and then you'll lose it. So you can push it from here, and now there's a little detent. Okay, so just put that by your safety so you don't lose it. This is the new one with the threaded bushings. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put the plate, the big side, is going to go forward, and you want to make sure it's in and forward. It's just laying in there flat. It's pretty simple. Okay, so now we're going to make sure that our bushings are lined up so the trigger wants to go in. Okay, and we're just going to set the trigger in. I guess drop the trigger in. It's a drop-in trigger. Okay, so now what you have to do before you put it in is you want to make sure that your 2 set screws on the bottom are not sticking out too far. Because like right now, those pins, they wouldn't line up, okay? So now I'm gonna take an Allen wrench and I'm gonna back them out, okay? So I'm just gonna back this up until they're not sticking out the bottom, okay? On both sides. Now, if you were doing this and you were installing this trigger in like a polymer lower, I would just remove those set screws because you don't really want to put pressure on your polymer lower on the bottom because the 4 screws from the outside will hold your trigger very well, and it actually makes your polymer lower stronger, and there's no reason to just put them against the bottom of that housing. All right, so here's the new trigger. So we're going to make sure the plate is forward and down. Now we're going to slide the trigger in. Holes, you'll see they line up and we can get our screws in there, okay? And the whole idea is you want to make sure that it's loose enough that you're not fighting putting these screws in. Now, you can take I like to just go with the screw and the little lock washer. You can do these. A lot of guys don't want to hurt it, but when the washers are too big, I think they look funny. I just don't like it. So you can use it if your gun was flatter there and didn't have this. This here lower is actually designed for the ELF trigger pins. It's shaped like it. So that's why the gun is shaped that way, but most guns are not shaped like that. Okay, so now we're just going to start the screw, and we don't want to force it. We don't want to tighten one down, okay? We're just going to kind of wiggle it around. Once we see that it's threading in, we're good. Just kind of put it in like that. We're going to take the next one, and you never want to tighten any of them down until all 4 screws are in place, okay? So now we're going to take the other one, kind of wiggle it just so that it wants to go in nice, and then that's it. Turn it in. Now it's going in. Okay, so now we're going to flip it over and do the same exact thing. Like Quinton Defense, it has this extra little set screw right here. Probably will be able to remove this arm. Normally, you can just put your trigger pins in, but there are guns that have different ambidextrous bolt releases and things that'll go, or mag releases that will be in your way. So I've never taken this out, but I imagine this comes right out. Yeah, it's probably one of the screws with that pin on the bottom. Okay. Yep, there it goes. And there's a little plunger, and then there is the spring that's going to hold it. So we'll put this all right back. So now we can use this. I thought for a minute we couldn't put this in this gun. All right, so now same thing. We're going to put this screw in, and we're going to kind of wiggle it around. We don't want to, I don't even use the tools really until I get it to thread in. So it's threading in now, no problem. Same thing here. We put the lock washer on it, and now we're going to thread that in too. Okay, so now this is threaded in on both sides. So now what we're going to do is We're going to take these 2 Allen wrenches that came with it. Now, actually, to install your safety, it's kind of better. This has a second position, so it has its safety catch on it, so it's completely drop safe. If the hammer's forward, your safety won't want to go in. On our triggers, you put them forward, and now it drops out of the way. Now, I like to put my safety in before I tighten the trigger all the way, because sometimes it pulls the trigger up a little bit, and it's kind of hard to install the safety, okay? So we're just going to leave it like it is right now, but now we're going to put our safety back in. So this is an ELF safety. It, just like every other safety though, it just goes in there and you slide your detent in. So we're just going to put this in. We've got this little milled out part right here because this is just a push button safety. And then we're going to put the detent down in there. Okay, and you can push it down to make sure it's in the way of the port. It's actually in that little milled out spot. So we just push down like this, move it back and forth, and we can see we're in place, okay? So now we're going to take the grip, which is a Hogue grip, which is the grips I like the best. There's a lot of good grips out there. So, all right, so we push that on. That's now holding the detent in place. And then sometimes this is a little tricky to get lined up, but I think I'll be all right here. So now we'll confirm that everything is in place. We'll drop that hammer, and it's popping back and forth. I'll put a little grease on that, so that's pretty strong. Okay, so now it is in, right? All our lock washers are on and everything, so now we're going to tighten it up. So what we're going to do is I like to just I run it down one side, and just as soon as it squeezes the lock washer, do the same thing on this side. If it doesn't, you got to hold the other side sometimes. Usually you can just run them in like that. Okay, same thing on the other side. Put it in, just run it down till it's just kind of locked up a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to firm them up. So we're going to make sure, one, that things are functioning, right? Our triggers, we're going to pull our trigger and hold it, pop it under, make sure the trigger resets, and then pull it, make sure it's releasing. It seems to be functioning. We pop on the safety. It doesn't fire, okay? Sometimes it needs to be all tight before it completely wants to function. Now, we're going to tighten it up. So we're going to take both these. We're going to put them on either side. Okay, and now we're just firm them, but it doesn't be crazy. I never have them come loose. They stay in really well. I'm not saying never. People have called me and said, "Do I Loctite them?" Don't Loctite them. Firm them up. The lock washers keep them tight. Make sure that where trigger is functioning again. So we want to make sure that it didn't tighten it somehow too tight, jam against the housing, and all of a sudden your trigger's not functioning. This trigger feels just fine. Okay, safety's functioning. Everything is good. So now we're going to put the trigger shoe on. So what I do is I take the trigger shoe, and you can probably put it on way on fire, so you put it on safe. And now I kind of just push it in, put it up and down where you like it. So however far you want it up or down, put it in your gun. Let's see here. So I like mine just where it's not going to hit. So I think that's good right there. Then your set screw. Push it in. Okay, and then firm it up, and I like you can firm them up pretty good. So put it like this. And then sometimes you want to actually hold your shoe with your finger so that it doesn't want to twist it when you're doing this. So just turn it till it's firm. Now your shoe is on, this trigger is installed. The only thing I do now is add this little arm back on the mag release. But that's it. It's pretty simple. It's very strong. With the 4 screws from the outside, I think that this is the best way. We hold the patent on this at Elfman Tactical. We hold the patent on it. And I just think that is just the best way to keep a trigger in the gun the tightest way. Now, there's 2 set screws still, right, on the bottom. We're still going to use them, okay? So now we're going to push the legs of the spring on both sides in and out of our way, okay, so that we can get to the Allen wrenches, right? Then we're going to take our Allen wrench. Of course, the light's just not where I need it. Okay, so we'll take our Allen wrench, and now I'm going to turn it in. It just touched, okay? So that's where it's touching. Go to the other side. So what it's doing is that's touching the bottom of your lower. It's actually hitting that plate we put in. So we're turning this till it touches, okay? Now I'm going to turn it about 1/8 of a turn, okay? Do the same thing to the other side, because we don't want to tighten one side up and then not the other. You want them to be even. So about 1/8 of a turn. It's nothing crazy. Go back to the other side. Okay, So now I'm going to go another 1/8 of a turn. So it's nothing crazy. It's about 1/4 a turn altogether. Okay, doing the other side the same way. I wish I could see it. Okay, the same way. So that's it. It's got 4 screws from the outside with lock washers. It's got 2 set screws on the bottom. So now when we take these out, the legs are now touching the hammer. You can't have that. More triggers are failed because people will call me like it's not working and just something doesn't make sense. And we tell them, put your hammer forward, look down there, and they'll say, yeah, the legs are against the hammer. Okay, so now I'm just going to take this screwdriver and I'm going to pop those legs so that they're out away from the hammer and they're over the little set screws. Okay, so that is how you properly install the ELF Pro Lock system on any of the Elfman triggers. It could be our Apex triggers, our SE triggers of either variety, with or without knobs, whatever. That's how it installs in any of the guns, including like the B&T version. It just has longer screws, but it's the same trigger, goes in the exact same way. Splice it together, right?
Yeah.
Okay, tell me if it's on.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, so now I'm going to explain or show you guys. A lot of customers will call me up and say they were taking their trigger out, put it in another gun, do something with it, whatever it was. And so they start to take out these 4 screws and they get them out and one is stuck. Okay, so what happens is, and I'll just show you how you do this, most all the time this solves the problem. So I'm going to loosen this one up, and I'm going to take it out. All right, so I'm going to take this one out. Now, see there's pressure on it because there's pressure on the bottom ones. Okay, because those 2 set screws on the bottom are tight right now. So they're actually pushing up against this. So we're going to do this. We're going to loosen that up. Take it off safety. We're going to loosen this up. And it was this one I've been using, right? Okay. So now we got to put the legs back in towards the middle so that we can loosen these little set screws. Okay. And this works on all of our triggers. If it's got the Pro system in it and you're having a problem where you can't get it back out, this is what you're going to do, okay? So now I'm going to loosen up my set screws. You can loosen it so it's totally out, 100% loosened up. Same thing on this side. So now I'm loosening that up. So now that'll take the pressure off of the screw. It should come out. See, now I can just turn it by hand. So before it was staying stuck in there because those 2 set screws were pushing up on the trigger. So now we're going to take this out. Okay, so now we go to turn the other side, and what's happening is it's turning for people, and it won't come out. So it's just spinning around when they're turning this, okay? So here's what you do. So let's say you were turning this and you couldn't get your trigger out. If I loosen this right now, it's going to probably just come out. Yeah, it'll loosen and come out. But I'm just going to demonstrate what's happening. So this somehow, it gets stuck in there, and it does happen. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take one of these washers. You're going to take this out. This screw, we give you the screw and this nut with it. You want it to go in good and far. Okay, so now we're just going to put it in the one that came out. So once we put this in, screw it down, not till it's jammed against the other one. If you do feel it bottom out, then just back it up a little, but we do want it really in there, okay? So now we put it in, it's good, it's in there deep. So now we're going to take this screw, this nut, and we're going to tighten it down tight, okay? So, a little crescent wrench or whatever you're going to use to tighten it, just tighten it down really good. Then what I do is, now by tightening that's tightening that screw against the gun. Now you could take this and you could turn it out on the opposite side. And it works most all the time. We have had it where it is stuck in there and they've had to drill it. It has happened. I've had to drill like 3 of these things. And they drill right out. But this is what happens. When you tighten that down, it's going to lock that bushing in place. Sometimes you'll lock it in place and you'll still use an Allen wrench on this side to hold it in place when you're turning that one out. So if your trigger is stuck in by one screw, this is what this tool does. And now once you take this side out, now this one can't stay locked in because once you loosen the nut up, it just comes right out. So there's no way. You just hold the Allen wrench and take the nut out. So that's what you do. And now you can get a trigger out even if it's spinning one of the nuts on the outside, one of the screws on the outside.